There's a kind of tired that sleep alone can't fix. You know the one. The body lies down, but the mind keeps working, replaying the day, rehearsing tomorrow, holding on to things you were never meant to carry alone. If that's where you are tonight, you're not the only one. Maybe you've been holding your breath for hours without even noticing. Maybe you've been waiting for permission to stop. Tonight, we're going to sit together inside some of the oldest sacred stories for sleep ever told. Stories that have carried tired, anxious people through nights just like this one, long before either of us were born. Not to teach you something new, just to remind you of something true. You can lay it down now. Whatever happened today, the argument you keep replaying, the bill you can't stop thinking about, the silence from someone you wish would call, it doesn't need you awake to exist. It will still be there tomorrow, in the daylight, where it belongs. Tonight is not for solving. Tonight is for resting. So let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let the list in your head get quieter, word by word, until it's just my voice, and the dark, and the slow stories that are about to hold you. Let me ask you something. Not to answer right away, just to sit with for a moment, the way you'd sit with a question that doesn't need solving tonight. When was the last time you put something down without finishing it? Not gave up on it, not failed at it, just put it down, set it on the table, and walked away, trusting it would still be there tomorrow. Exactly as you left it, not falling apart because you stopped holding it for a few hours. Most of us can't remember. We were taught, somewhere along the way, that holding on was the same thing as caring. That if we stopped gripping the schedule, the worry, the responsibility, something terrible might slip through the cracks. So we keep gripping, year after year, until our hands forget what it feels like to be open. I want you to notice your hands right now. Are they open, resting on the blanket? Or are they curled, even slightly, like they're still holding something? It's strange how the body keeps score of things the mind has stopped admitting to. Here's the image I want to leave with you. And I'm not going to explain it, just let it sit there in the quiet. The way a stone sits at the bottom of a still pond, undisturbed, untouched, simply there. Picture a man standing at the edge of a riverbank at the end of a long day. He's been carrying water all day, buckets of it, back and forth, from the river to the field, because the crops needed it and there was no one else to do it. His shoulders ache. His hands are raw. The sun is going down now, and the field is watered, and there is nothing left to carry. But he's still standing there with the empty bucket in his hand, gripping the handle, out of habit, out of 40 years of habit. The river doesn't need him to keep holding the bucket. The field is done for today. The work that needed doing has been done, and yet his hand won't open. I wonder how long he stands there before he notices. I wonder how long you've been standing there. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from what we did today. It comes from what we kept holding after the doing was finished. The conversation that's already over, but you're still replaying your part in it, looking for the better thing you could have said. The decision you already made hours ago, that you keep redeciding in your head, as if doing it one more time will finally make it feel settled. The child who is asleep down the hall, safe, breathing evenly, and yet you are still listening for something, still half awake on their behalf, as you've been every night for years. None of that is weakness. I want to be honest with you about that, because somewhere along the way you may have started believing it was. It isn't weakness. It's love that hasn't learned yet how to rest. It's care that never got permission to stop. But here's the question I'm leaving you with, and again, You don't have to answer it out loud, or even in your head. Just let it touch you and move on, the way a small wave touches the shore and pulls back without needing the sand to respond. What would it feel like, just for tonight, just for these next few minutes, to set the bucket down? Not forever. Not as a permanent decision about how you'll live your life from now on. Just for tonight. Just to see what your hand feels like when it isn't holding anything. I think some of us are afraid of what we'd find in that empty space. We've filled our hands for so long that an empty hand feels like a kind of danger. Like if we're not holding something, we're not doing our job. Like rest is something we have to earn with enough exhaustion first, and even then we're not sure we've earned it. But think about the riverbank again. The man with the empty bucket. What happens to the field if he sets it down? Nothing. The crops are already watered. What happens to the river if he stops gripping the handle? Nothing. The river was never his to control in the first place. He only ever borrowed from it, carried what he needed, and gave it somewhere else. Maybe that's true for more than water. Maybe the things you're gripping tonight were never yours to hold on to forever. You were only ever meant to carry them for a while, through the day, through the hard conversation, through the worry that had its reasons, and then set them down when the carrying was done. The carrying is done for today. I'm not asking you to trust that everything will be fine. I'm not asking you to believe the worry was unnecessary, or that the ache in your chest isn't real. I'm only asking you to notice, just notice, that your hand is still closed around something the day already finished needing. So here's the image again, one more time, slower now. A man at a riverbank, the sun nearly gone, an empty bucket in his hand, and for the first time in longer than he can remember, his fingers begin, just slightly, to loosen. That's all. That's the whole picture. I won't tell you what it means for you. That's not mine to decide. I'll just leave it here, in the quiet. The way you'd leave a stone at the bottom of a pond and let it settle on its own time. You don't have to know the answer right now. You don't have to know anything right now. You can just lay it down now. I want to pray with you now. Not a prayer you have to follow word for word. Not a performance you need to get right. Just words that might say what you haven't had the strength to say yourself tonight. If you want, you can close your eyes. If your hands are open already, leave them that way. Father, I don't know everything this person carried today. You do. You watched the hours pass, the ones that went well, and the ones that didn't. You saw the moment their chest tightened in the middle of an ordinary afternoon for no reason they could name. You heard the words they didn't say to someone they love, because saying them felt too risky, or too late, or too complicated to untangle in the time they had. You know what they're still holding right now, even as I'm praying these words. The thing they haven't told anyone. The thing they've decided not to think about until it's bigger than they are. I'm not going to name it for them. They know what it is. But I'm asking you to meet them there, in that exact spot, the one they haven't shown anyone else. Lord, there's a particular kind of tired that comes from pretending to be fine. From answering "I'm okay" so many times that the words stopped meaning anything. From smiling through a meeting, a phone call, a dinner table, while something underneath kept asking to be acknowledged and never was. I think you know how heavy that gets. I think you see straight through the answer to the truth underneath it, the way you've always seen past what people say to what they actually carry. So tonight, I'm not asking you to fix everything. I've learned not to pray for that. Not because you couldn't, but because fixing everything would mean understanding everything, controlling everything, and most nights, That's not what's being asked of either of us. I'm asking for something smaller, something quieter, something that doesn't require you to rearrange tomorrow. I'm asking that you would sit with this person right now, not from a distance, not as someone watching from far away, taking notes, waiting to intervene only if things get bad enough. Close the way you were close to the disciples in that boat, in the middle of the storm, before you ever calmed the wind. Read that story again sometime, Lord. The way I read it tonight, you didn't wait until everything was still to be near them. You were already there, in the middle of the waves, asleep in the boat even, before you ever spoke a word over the water. Your presence didn't depend on the storm ending first. Be that close tonight. Not a presence that shows up after the worry passes. A presence that sits inside the worry itself, the way warmth sits inside a cold room once the fire's been lit, not removing the cold from the world outside, just changing what it feels like to be in this particular room. If their mind keeps circling back to a conversation, a decision, a fear they can't quite name, Lord, slow it down, not erase it, not pretend it isn't real. Just slow it, the way you slow a current when it reaches calmer water. Let the thoughts that have been racing all day start, just gradually, to walk instead of run. Let the loop in their mind lose its grip, one slow turn at a time, until it's not loud enough to keep them from the rest they need. I'm asking, too, for the people they love, the ones sleeping down the hall, or in another house, in another city, that they worry about even when there's nothing they can do about it tonight. Watch over those people now, even when the worrying has never once changed the outcome, only the quality of their own rest. Let this person feel, even just a little, that they're allowed to stop watching for a few hours, that you don't need their exhaustion to keep their family safe, that love doesn't require staying awake. There's a verse I keep coming back to, Lord, the one about casting our cares on you, because you care for us. I don't think that means the caring stops. I think it means the carrying does. The caring stays exactly where it's always been, in the same tender place it's always lived. The weight just goes somewhere else, somewhere stronger, somewhere built to hold it without buckling under the size of it. So if they're willing tonight, if some part of them is ready, even if it's a small, uncertain part, let them feel that exchange happening. Let the weight move from their chest into your hands. Not because they failed at carrying it, because it was never meant to be carried alone, every single night, for as long as they've been carrying it. I don't know what tomorrow holds for them, neither do they, but you do. And I think that's enough for tonight. Not knowing everything, just knowing you're not absent from it. Quiet their hands, quiet their jaw, quiet that small, persistent voice that keeps adding one more thing to the list, right as they're trying to fall asleep, the one that won't quiet on its own. Let sleep come not because they've earned it, but because you're offering it. A gift, not a reward. And if they wake in the night, if their eyes open at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m., the way they sometimes do, let the first thing they feel be your nearness, not their worry. Let the room feel less empty than it sometimes does in those hours. Let them remember, even half asleep, even without fully waking to the thought that they are not facing the dark by themselves. Thank you for staying close to people who are too tired to ask for much else tonight. Thank you for not needing perfect words, or perfect faith, or a perfectly calm heart before you come near. Thank you for meeting people exactly where they are, in whatever state they arrive in, without asking them to clean up first. We lay it down now, all of it. The parts we said out loud, and the parts we didn't. The parts we understand, and the parts we never will. Amen. If there's something specific you were carrying tonight that I didn't name, you can say it now. In your own words, in the quiet. He's not in a hurry. Neither am I. You can lay it down now. I want you to come somewhere with me for a few minutes. Not a real place, or maybe it is. Somewhere you've been before. Somewhere that feels like home even if you've never actually stood there. Let your mind go quiet enough to picture it, the way you'd let your eyes adjust slowly to a darkened room, shapes becoming clearer the longer you sit still and let them. It's a small house, somewhere out past the edge of a town, where the streetlights stop and the dark gets wider, where the sky has room to be as big as it actually is. There's a window left slightly open, just a crack, enough for the night air to move through the curtain every so often, slow, unhurried, like it has nowhere else it needs to be. Outside, it has started to rain, not the loud kind, not the kind that demands attention or makes you check on the roof, just a soft rain, the kind that taps against the glass in no particular rhythm, the kind that seems to fall because it wants to, not because it has anywhere urgent to land. It's been falling like this for a while, and it will keep falling for a while longer, with no particular interest in when you fall asleep. There's a lamp on in the corner of the room, the kind with a warm yellow light, low enough that it doesn't ask anything of your eyes. It just sits there, glowing, the way a small fire glows in a room that doesn't need to be heated, just held. It's been burning for a while now, and it isn't going anywhere. There's no switch anyone needs to remember to flip, no flame that needs tending. It simply stays lit, patient, the way certain kinds of love are patient, not flickering, not demanding to be noticed, just present. Somewhere outside, far enough that it's more feeling than sound, a dog barks once, and then goes quiet, satisfied with whatever it needed to say. A car passes, somewhere on a road you can't see, its sound rising and fading without ever quite arriving. The blanket on the bed is heavier than you'd expect, the kind that presses down just enough to remind your body it's allowed to stop holding itself up. It doesn't ask you to do anything, it just stays, the way good things sometimes simply stay, without needing to be earned or maintained. I want you to notice, really notice, that nothing in this room is asking anything of you. The rain isn't waiting for a response. The lamp doesn't need you awake to keep glowing. The blanket isn't going anywhere if your eyes close. Even the window doesn't mind staying cracked open all night, letting in just enough air to remind you that the world outside is still turning gently, without your help. This is what rest actually looks like when no one is performing it for anyone else. Not a finish line you cross. Not an achievement you list somewhere. Something to mention the next time someone asks how you've been taking care of yourself. Just a room, and a window cracked open, and rain that keeps falling whether you're listening or not. I think a lot of us have forgotten how to be in a room like this, without our minds still pacing somewhere else, still at the office, still in tomorrow's conversation, still running through the version of today that could have gone better, replaying lines we wish we'd said differently. But the room doesn't know about any of that. The room only knows the rain, and the lamp, and the quiet weight of the blanket, and it isn't in a hurry for you to catch up to it. So, for the next few minutes, let your mind come back into the room. Just the room. The window, the rain, the warm, low light, the dog that already said what it needed to say, the car that already passed. There's nothing else happening here. There's nowhere else you need to be. The rain will keep falling whether or not you're awake to hear it, the way it has every night for longer than either of us has been alive. The way it will keep falling long after tonight is over, long after this particular worry has been replaced by some other one. It doesn't need your attention to keep doing what it's doing. Neither does anything else you've been holding. Let the sound of it become the only sound. Let the yellow light become the only light. Let your breathing slow down to match the rhythm of something that isn't rushing toward anything, because nothing in this room is rushing. Nothing in this room has anywhere else to be, and for these few minutes, neither do you. If your thoughts try to wander back out that window toward something unfinished, just notice it gently. The way you'd notice a curtain moving in a breeze, and let your attention settle back into the room, back to the rain, back to the lamp, back to the blanket that's already doing its quiet work without needing your permission to keep doing it. You don't have to fall asleep right this second. There's no deadline on rest, no schedule it needs to keep. But you can let your body believe, just for these minutes, that it's allowed to be exactly this, still. That stillness isn't something you have to justify to anyone, not even to yourself. That the room will hold you exactly as you are, unfinished thoughts and all. The way it's holding the rain and the lamp and the small, quiet dark outside the window. Somewhere in a room like this one, years from now or years ago, someone else has lain just as still, listening to rain just like this, carrying a weight just like yours, finding the same kind of quiet, waiting for them. You are not the first tired person this room has ever held, and you won't be the last. There's a strange comfort in that, if you let yourself feel it, the comfort of being one more tired person in a long, unbroken line of people who needed exactly this, and were given it, without having to ask twice. The rain keeps falling, the lamp keeps glowing, and you are allowed, for as long as you need, to simply be here, not solving, not planning, not bracing for what tomorrow might ask of you. Just here, in this room, in this quiet, with the window cracked just enough to let the night in. You can lay it down now. I want to read some words to you now. Old words. Words that have been spoken over tired people for hundreds of years, long before either of us had a name for what we were feeling. You don't have to do anything with them. Just let them land, slowly, the way snow lands, without sound, without hurry. From Psalm 4, I will both lay me down in peace and sleep. Read that again with me, slower. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep. There's something in those words I want you to notice. It doesn't say I will sleep, and then maybe peace will come. It says the peace comes first. The lying down is already peaceful. The sleep is just what happens after. For thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. Not I make myself safe by staying alert all night. Not I keep watch so nothing goes wrong. Thou, Lord, only. The safety was never something you had to manufacture by staying awake long enough. Let's sit with that one a little longer before we move on. From Psalm 23, maybe you've heard this one before, maybe in a different season of your life, maybe at a funeral, maybe as a child. I want you to hear it tonight, not as something familiar, but as something said to you, here, now, for the first time. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Still waters, not loud waters, not waters with somewhere urgent to be. Still he restoreth my soul. Not he restoreth my schedule. Not he restoreth my to-do list. The soul, the part of you, that's been running on empty long before your body noticed. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, even in the valley, even in the part of the night that feels longest. Thou art with me. Not thou wilt rescue me from the valley, just with me, in it, beside me, present, even in the dark part. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. A shepherd's staff isn't for fighting, it's for guiding, for pulling something back from the edge, gently, the way you'd pull a child back from a step that looked steady but wasn't. That's the kind of comfort being offered here. Not a weapon, a gentle, steady hand. One more, from Psalm 127. It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep. Read that last part again, slowly. For so he giveth his beloved sleep. Not his beloved earns sleep through enough exhaustion. Not his beloved deserves sleep after a hard enough day. He gives it the way you'd give a gift to someone you love. Not because they asked the right way. Not because they proved they needed it enough. Just because you love them, and giving things to people you love is simply what love does. I think a lot of us have spent years sitting up late, rising up early, believing the sorrow we carry has to be matched by our effort to outwork it. The psalm doesn't say that effort is wrong. It just says it's vain, not in the sense of foolish, but in the sense of unnecessary. The thing you're working so hard to secure for yourself was already being offered. Let those words settle now. You don't need to remember them word for word. You don't need to write them down or hold on to the structure of them. Just let the feeling underneath them stay with you, the feeling of someone older, wiser, more patient than you, saying, I've already provided what you've been trying to earn. He giveth his beloved sleep. You are the beloved in that sentence tonight. You can lay it down now. I want to read some words to you now. Old words. Words that have been spoken over tired people for hundreds of years, long before either of us had a name for what we were feeling. You don't have to do anything with them. Just let them land, slowly, the way snow lands, without sound, without hurry, settling somewhere you won't notice until morning. From Psalm 4, I will both lay me down in peace and sleep. Read that again with me, slower. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep. There's something in those words I want you to notice. It doesn't say I will sleep and then maybe peace will come. It says the peace comes first. The lying down is already peaceful. The sleep is just what happens after, almost an afterthought to something that's already settled before your eyes ever close. For thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. Not I make myself safe by staying alert all night. Not I keep watch so nothing goes wrong. Thou, Lord, only. The safety was never something you had to manufacture by staying awake long enough, by running through every possibility until you'd accounted for all of them. It was already there, underneath the watching, whether the watching happened or not. Let's sit with that one a little longer before we move on. Just sit with it, the way you'd sit beside someone you trust, not needing to say anything else. From Psalm 23, maybe you've heard this one before, maybe in a different season of your life, maybe at a funeral, maybe as a child, sitting in a pew somewhere, not understanding yet why the words mattered. I want you to hear it tonight, not as something familiar, but as something said to you, here, now, for the first time. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters, not loud waters, not waters with somewhere urgent to be. Still, the kind of water that doesn't ask you to keep your guard up, because there's nothing underneath it pulling you somewhere you don't want to go. He restoreth my soul, not he restoreth my schedule, not he restoreth my to-do list. The soul, the part of you that's been running on empty long before your body noticed. long before anyone else could tell from the outside that something underneath had gone quiet and tired. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, even in the valley, even in the part of the night that feels longest, the part where the dark seems to stretch further than it should. Thou art with me, not thou wilt rescue me from the valley, just with me, in it, beside me, present, even in the dark part, even when the valley doesn't end as quickly as you'd hoped it would. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. A shepherd's staff isn't for fighting, it's for guiding, for pulling something back from the edge, gently, the way you'd pull a child back from a step that looked steady but wasn't. That's the kind of comfort being offered here. Not a weapon, a gentle, steady hand, the kind that corrects without ever raising its voice. One more, from Psalm 127. It is vain for you to rise up early, to sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep. Read that last part again, slowly. For so he giveth his beloved sleep, not his beloved earned sleep. Through enough exhaustion, not his beloved deserves sleep after a hard enough day, after proving they've done enough to be allowed to stop. He gives it, the way you'd give a gift to someone you love, not because they asked the right way, not because they proved they needed it enough, just because you love them. And giving things to people you love is simply what love does, without needing a reason beyond the love itself. I think a lot of us have spent years sitting up late, rising up early, believing the sorrow we carry has to be matched by our effort to outwork it, as if exhaustion were a kind of currency we're spending toward something we'll eventually earn. The psalm doesn't say that effort is wrong. It just says it's vain, not in the sense of foolish, but in the sense of unnecessary. The thing you're working so hard to secure for yourself was already being offered, quietly, the whole time, while you kept reaching past it for something you thought you had to build on your own. There's one more I want to leave with you, from Psalm 91, because I think it belongs here too. In this quiet stretch between the Psalms we've already read and the rest that's waiting on the other side of them. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The secret place, not a place anyone else can see you in, not a place you have to perform stillness for, a hidden room somewhere inside you that nothing outside can reach the way it can reach the rest of your life. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. A refuge isn't somewhere you fight from. It's somewhere you stop fighting. A fortress doesn't need you standing on the wall all night, watching for what might come. It was built to hold, even while you sleep inside it. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, for the arrow that flieth by day. Whatever specific fear found you tonight, by name or without one, that fear was already known, already anticipated, long before it ever reached you. You weren't supposed to face it by staying awake long enough to outlast it. You were only ever supposed to rest inside something stronger than it. Let those words settle now. You don't need to remember them word for word. You don't need to write them down or hold on to the structure of them. Just let the feeling underneath them stay with you, the feeling of someone older, wiser, more patient than you, saying, I've already provided what you've been trying to earn. You can stop reaching now. He giveth his beloved sleep. You are the beloved in that sentence tonight, not someday, once you've done enough to qualify. Tonight, exactly as you are, exhausted and uncertain and still holding more than you've said out loud. You can lay it down now. If you've made it this far with me tonight, sitting in the quiet, letting the words slow down as they were meant to. I want you to know something. This place is here for you. Every night, not just tonight. Whatever you're carrying when you come back, whatever hour it is, whatever you didn't say to anyone else today, there's room for that here. I know there are nights when you come looking for something like this, not because today was especially hard, but because the quiet itself has become hard to find anywhere else. That's all right too. You don't need a reason good enough to deserve rest. You just need to be tired and willing, and that's already true tonight. If no one has told you this in a while, you are welcome here. Subscribe to the channel so you can find your way back whenever the night feels too long to face alone. You don't have to carry tomorrow tonight. Tomorrow can wait its turn. Tonight is only for this, for resting, for being still, for letting the day finally end the way it was always supposed to end, gently, without a fight. I say that to you not as something I'm asking you to believe right away, but as something I hope you'll let settle the way everything else has settled tonight, slowly, without needing your permission first. Now come back with me, just for a few more minutes, before we let the night take the rest. Think about every story we've sat inside tonight. The man at the riverbank with his hands finally opening. The rain falling outside a window that doesn't ask anything of you. The old words about a beloved who is given sleep instead of having to earn it. None of those stories were really about water or weather or ancient poetry. They were about you. They were always about you. About the hands you've kept closed for longer than you meant to. About the watching you've done on behalf of people who are already safe, already breathing evenly, already held by something bigger than your exhaustion. About the bucket you've carried from one end of the day to the other, certain that setting it down meant something terrible might happen, when really the field was already watered. The work was already done. It has been done for hours now. About the still waters from the psalm, the ones that never asked you to keep your guard up, the ones that were always going to hold you whether you trusted them right away or not. Remember the room with the rain outside the window, the lamp that didn't need you awake to keep glowing. That room is still here. It never left while we prayed, or read the old words, or sat in the silence together. It's been waiting this whole time, the way it waits every night, for whoever finally lets themselves walk back in and stay. You came into tonight tired in a way that sleep alone hasn't been able to touch. That kind of tired doesn't ask for more effort. It asks for less gripping, less rehearsing, less standing at the edge of the riverbank long after the work is finished, waiting for permission you've already been given 100 times before, in 100 different ways, by people who loved you and by a God who has never once asked you to stay awake on his behalf. Maybe you've spent years believing that staying alert was a form of love, that if you stopped watching, even for a night, something would slip through that only your vigilance was holding together. I understand why you'd believe that. Most of us were taught some version of it, by people who meant well, by a world that rewards exhaustion as if it were proof of devotion. But devotion was never supposed to cost you your rest. Love was never supposed to require you to stay awake forever. I think about the people who've written to me after watching videos like this one. People who said they hadn't slept through a full night in months. People who said they finally felt like someone understood the specific shape of what they were carrying, even from a distance, even through a screen. I don't say that to make this about me. I say it because I want you to know you're not the only one who needed this tonight, and you won't be the last. The permission was never the problem. You just hadn't stopped long enough to hear it. It's been there in the Psalms we read tonight, in the man who finally let the bucket fall into the grass, in the rain that kept falling whether anyone noticed or not. It's been there the whole time, waiting for the moment you were tired enough, or honest enough, or simply quiet enough to actually receive it instead of just hearing it. That's the strange thing about permission like this. It's rarely loud. It doesn't usually arrive as a single dramatic moment where everything changes at once. More often, it arrives the way it's arriving right now, quietly. In the middle of an ordinary night, while you're lying still and listening to a voice that isn't asking anything of you. You almost miss it if you're not paying attention. But you're paying attention now. So whatever brought you here tonight, the racing thoughts, the worry you couldn't name, the simple exhaustion of another long day, let it have brought you to exactly this moment, this room, this quiet. That's enough of a reason. It was always going to be enough. You're stopping now. Not because today is finished being hard. Not because every worry has resolved itself in the last hour. Just because it's time, the way it's time for the lamp to stay lit without you watching it. The way it's time for the field to rest until morning. The way it's time for a tired person to finally set something down that was never meant to be carried alone. You can lay it down now. There was a man once, at the end of a long day, standing at the edge of a quiet field. The bucket was still in his hand. The sun had gone down behind the hills a while ago, slow enough that he almost didn't notice the exact moment the light disappeared, only that, at some point, it had. He didn't decide to let go all at once. It happened the way most real things happen, slowly, one finger at a time, until the handle slipped from his palm without him quite deciding it should. The bucket landed in the grass without a sound. The field didn't need him standing guard over it. It never had. He walked back toward the house. Inside, a lamp was already on, warm and low, the kind of light that doesn't ask anything of the eyes that find it. Rain had started somewhere along the way, not the kind that demands shelter, just the kind that falls because falling is what rain does, with nowhere urgent to be. He lay down, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, his hands stayed open. I think that's where we've been together tonight. Not in a field, not really, but somewhere just like it. The place inside you, where you've been standing guard over things that finished needing you hours ago. The conversation already over. The child already safe. The worry that already did its work and has nothing left to teach you tonight. We sat by still waters tonight, and they didn't ask you to keep watching them. We sat in a room with rain outside the window, and the rain never once needed your attention to keep falling. We prayed, and the praying wasn't about getting the words right. It was about letting someone else hold what you'd been holding by yourself for too long. You don't have to understand why it was so hard to set down. You don't have to explain it to anyone, not even yourself. Some things just take longer to release than they took to pick up. That's not a failure. That's just how certain kinds of weight work. They don't leave the moment you decide they should. They leave slowly, the way warmth leaves a room after the fire's gone out, lingering a while before the cold finally settles in. If tonight only loosened your grip a little, that's enough. You don't have to walk away from this completely healed, completely at peace, every burden gone for good. You just have to be a little lighter than you were an hour ago. That's all this was ever meant to do. But your hand is open now. I can feel it, even from here. Maybe it happened sometime during the Psalms, when the old words finally said what you'd been needing to hear. Maybe it happened in the silence, when nothing was asked of you at all. It doesn't matter exactly when. What matters is that it happened. The rain is still falling outside that window. The lamp is still glowing in the corner of the room. And the old words are still true. The ones that were true before tonight and will be true long after it. He giveth his beloved sleep. You are the beloved in that sentence. You were the whole time. Long before tonight. Long before you ever needed a video like this one to remind you. The love was never something you had to earn your way into. It was already there, waiting for you to stop working so hard to deserve it. So whatever tomorrow brings, and I don't know what it will bring, no one watching this does. It can wait until you've actually rested. It will still be there in the morning, exactly as patient as it's always been, no less solvable for having waited a few extra hours while you slept. You're not abandoning anything by sleeping tonight. You're simply trusting that it will keep the way good things keep. The way the field kept watered without the man needing to stand over it until morning. If this found you tonight, in whatever room you're in, with whatever you carried into it, I'd love for you to subscribe so we can sit together again whenever the night gets long. This is a place you can always come back to, no matter how many nights it takes, no matter what's keeping you awake the next time. And if there's something on your heart, a word you'd want spoken over, a night you're hoping to make it through, leave it in the comments. Tell me what kind of evening you'd want me to build for you next. I read every one, and some of the videos you'll see here started exactly that way, as a quiet request from someone who just needed a particular kind of stillness. But not tonight. Tonight there's nothing left to say. Just the rain, just the lamp, just your hand, open, resting. You can lay it down now.